Oh,
We're
yeah.
live. Oh yeah, we're live.
I almost forgot to hit live when I started the whole thing. I'm like, oh, I gotta go hit live too to go live.
No, we got to keep an eye on you. We really do.
And I put some questions together today
Oh, nice.
to ask Tina.
Awesome.
So here we are, John Butler and Tina Provencher, my
Hello.
bride. So we've been married 20, going on 27 years.
She's
Going on
still around
28.
to talk about it.
28. So Tina and I work together, and which is predominantly a good thing. And she's the manager. I'm the photographer, marketer. She's the manager, bookkeeper, extraordinaire. And there was a couple of photographers in Sudbury. They were mom and pop, since retired 15, 17 years ago. The Gallardos, they had a very successful studio. And Gloria, she used to say about her husband, Conrad, she'd go, Conrad, I love you. Today, I don't like you. That's just the perils of working with your
Of
significant
working
other.
with your spouse.
Yeah. But overall, it's been pretty good. And I think we got a good thing going because we share the duties, and your specialty is studio management. So, and that's what we're going to talk about today, studio management, maybe sales and some other. I know, John, you got some questions, and we can alternate back and forth with questions. We'll just throw them at Tina. And the first question that I want to bring up, I think it's a relevant question, and it's one that Tina and I have been debating, locking horns over somewhat, and that is in-person sales. Now, Tina does all the selling, and we've been exploring with going to Zoom meetings, especially with the ferry days. My thinking is, if we're doing an out-of-town ferry event, and if we did all the sessions on Zoom, we could leave earlier, get home earlier, and you're kind of working from home. However, that's contingent on the idea that the sales are going to remain somewhat strong and not be affected. So there's that scenario that I want to ask Tina about and get her input on, and thoughts. I kind of know where she's going to go with that, but I'll let you guys kind of work it out and hear what she has to say. And that also, like, why do you like in-person sales so much, generally speaking, not just with the scenario that I described, the ferry day events?
So I think there's a few different reasons that I prefer the in-person. I mean, certainly it's more of an inconvenience for me and more of an inconvenience for the client, but there's a lot of pluses to it as well. So first thing being, you can have more of a rapport with the people if they're sitting there in front of you, right? You end up not just discussing the photos, you might discuss family stuff or their kids. So there's more of a relationship with the client. It gives a little bit more time to establish that relationship.
Right.
Not in all cases, but I would say in more cases, I think they feel more obligated to buy because they're sitting in front of you as opposed to being remote. And it gets the sale done, right? They're coming in, they know they're coming in to do the sale. So again, most, not all, will take the time to think about what they want or make a list before they come in. Whereas again, I find if they're doing it remotely, they're less inclined to be that organized. And then I'll do the online sale and they'll be like, okay, well, yeah, I chose my favorites. Let me get back to you.
Right.
So for those reasons, I think still in-person sales works better. That's not to say that I haven't done Zoom sales that have been good sales.
Yep.
But more likely for the sales to drag out. So if I can use the example of when we do the ferry days. So when we went to London and when we went to Pembroke, I did the majority of the sales in person, but I offered the people the option of in person or to do Zoom later.
Right.
So I still have John from Pembroke. I still have one person who hasn't ordered.
Oh, really?
From London,
Okay.
I still have 3 people who haven't ordered.
And I finally got
Now,
the person to pick up the stuff.
yeah. So, and the one person who hasn't ordered from Pembroke wanted something larger, right? So,
Right.
is it a question of they just couldn't afford it and wait for the money to come, or is it just gone too long now that it's kind of in the past and it's just like, well, whatever, forget it.
You think
Well,
they
with a
might have lost
situation like
interest?
that, do you reach out to them later on? Say, I noticed you haven't made an order yet. Are you still interested, or do you
Yeah,
just
now
leave it
this
alone?
person I need to reach out to again, just that one. Now, so we did Barry. I think I also offered some Zoom when we went to Barry, but mostly in person. But those got done. So Barry, Pembroke, London, and then our last out of town one was the Sioux, which I've always done 100% in person. So I thought I'm not going to offer Zoom when I go to the Sioux this time. So just to kind of see the difference, right?
Yeah.
So, and my proofings in the Sioux are always on a Sunday and a Monday. So Monday, of course, being a work day for a lot of people.
Right.
And I booked them all on Sunday and Monday. They all came in, they all ordered. I came back from the Sioux, it was done. Every order
Yeah.
was done. So
Nice. And sales were brisk, if I recall.
yeah. So the Sioux's
That's
always our biggest one. And I'm starting to think, and this is kind of off topic of management, that smaller cities are better than bigger cities.
Really?
Why? I don't know, but I'm
Mhm.
just getting that feeling.
it's a trend you're noticing. Like, and when you say larger cities, we're putting Barrie and London in there.
Yes. Like Barrie was pretty good. It was our first year.
Yeah.
And as you noted, Rob, we had a lot of people who actually weren't from Barrie, were
That was
coming from
weird.
other towns.
Yeah.
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 London it's tough. Like we book it and we make what we want to make, but the Sioux and Pembroke I find are easier to do.
Mhm.
Is that
And you
because they're
even get
smaller centers?
yeah, and you even get some people from outside Pembroke here that came. Like
Yeah,
I think it was last year you had somebody from the GTA that came all the way here because they missed you when you were down in London or something like
yeah,
that.
and
And
they
then even
had
last year we had an Ottawa one come in.
yeah. So I don't know. Anyways, that's off topic of management, but that's
Yeah.
my thought on in-person versus Zoom sales.
I don't think it's off topic, and I'll tell you why.
I agree.
Because you're in there in the front lines doing all this stuff as management, and you
Mhm.
make these observations. So these are good observations to make.
Yeah.
And you might say that someone who's doing the management, if they're astute enough to make these observations, now we can have, like Tina and I are always having these business meetings, even
Mhm.
though we're just the mom and pop, you know. We'll say, well, let's have a meeting today or tomorrow at noon. We'll have a cappuccino and sit down and talk. I have an agenda. I like doing that.
Yeah.
And if I'm gonna buy a new piece of equipment, I sneak it in the agenda. Well, I open the door. I say,
Yeah.
okay, the lights we're using is getting a little old, so I'm just saying, okay, we'll talk about it later.
Yeah.
But I just sort of dropped the seeds, but that's good, because I keeps me accountable and not to go crazy spending too much
Mhm.
money on frivolous things
But I
like
also find
drones.
too, when she's talking about the Zoom versus in person, it's also that being able to sit there and touch and feel everything and see them right there in front of them and know what they're
Yeah.
like, as opposed to showing it to them like, okay, what's that 20 by 30 again? And you get it, you're showing on Zoom like this. It kind of doesn't have that same appeal, I think. If they're
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
touching and
and people,
feeling it, they have.
yes, that's true. Like the albums and showing the difference between masonite and float and
Mhm.
canvas is much easier when they can actually touch and feel it. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, you can do that with them when they come in for the session too, but I think
Mhm.
they're just not paying as much attention
Yeah.
because they're there for the session, right?
Plus, you might only have
Mhm.
one of the parents there at the session, like say the mother. Whereas when they do the sales session, the father's coming too. He doesn't know he wasn't there to see them.
Yeah. And
So.
the other thing I'll mention too that we started doing this year, which I think has helped somewhat with the sales, is we're sending out a video beforehand of Rob showing and describing all the products. So
Mhm.
so they're going to see it potentially 3 times in that video, when they come into the studio, and then when they come back for the sales session. So they're familiar with the products by the time it gets to the sales session.
Yeah, Tina gave me instructions last spring. I think she said, you need to do a video, and yep, yes, boss. And I did a video explaining, it's just a short 6-minute video. Video marketing is something I really believe in as far as giving the information. When Tina sends out an email for every booking, there's a video of me. If it's a fairy session or a child session or clothing tips, I have a clothing tips video. They all get the video so that it helps, and they get to meet me via video.
Exactly.
And then they get the video. Tina, do you send the video with the products right away, or do you send it again when you send the confirmation email?
So this is for the fairies, right?
Yeah.
So I send about 5 or 6 days before the actual session. I've started sending a second email saying appointment reminder and more information. And so it's got just a reminder, your appointment is on this day, your ordering appointments on this day. And here's a video showing you the products that we offer. And here again is the link to the price list, so they can look at the price list and see how much those products cost. So it's a separate, because I don't want it buried in that other email with all the instructions. And I want it to be fresh too.
Right.
So if they haven't looked at the other one, well, then maybe now they're going to look at this one.
Yeah.
Some photographers would disagree with the idea of giving the prices beforehand. So it's sort of like,
I don't want to have any arguments with people
Yeah.
when it comes to the sales session. And I have had people, when we do the fairy sessions, not very many, but like 1 or 2 who have emailed me back after and said, I can't afford this, I'd like to cancel. And that's fine, I'll give you your money back. I don't want them coming in and begrudgingly. So I want people there who know what the prices are, and they want the product and they want to pay for it.
This is all about managing clients and their expectations.
Yeah, exactly.
Brian's saying, are the video links from your YouTube channel or webpage? Both, Brian. I put all my videos that I create for information in my YouTube channel. Anybody can find them. And then I link them also as part of our content on our webpage. So Tina will just send the link to the webpage. So I could put a little description in there as well. But I think it's a dynamic thing to do. Tina doesn't like being on video. I'm totally now I'm no problem.
Yeah, I know the feeling, because Colleen won't either.
There you go.
But Tina likes being one-on-one with clients. I gotta admit, I'm like, when Tina's doing 2 days of proofing, I'm like, oh my God, I'd rather poke needles in my eyes. And she never complains, and you seem to just sort of roll into it quite naturally. And
Yeah,
I don't know, what is that all about?
I have a system, and like I said, most people come there and they're excited, right?
Yeah, true.
They're going to see the fairy pictures of their child, so they're happy and they're excited. So
true. Then they're excited.
Admittedly, I'm worn out at the end of the day by all the interactions with people, because I'm not an extrovert. So
yeah. So, but you're happy because you're counting
I'm getting
the
it
sales.
done, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And by the way, she's also, every time a sale comes through when we're out of town like that, I go back home right away, as you know, John. I abandon you right away. I go home, and as soon as I get home, she starts, as soon as she's proofing, she sends me a picture that she takes with her phone of the orders.
Yeah.
So I start working on them right away. So literally by the time Tina's done, packed, you're there, Sunday, Monday, and then you drive home on Tuesday. By the time you come home, 90% of the orders are sorted,
ready to be going to the lab.
ready to go.
Yeah.
And if I'm not done then, I'm done by the next day. Last year we had 2 Fairy Day weekends in a row. It was like, I don't want to fall behind. So I'm very, very, I don't know, I don't want to fall behind. So we got a pretty good system, and we work together like that. So
So if I don't mind, I have a quick question here regarding
Yeah.
your bookings, like when you do fairy porch and that. I've talked to Rob about this in the past. I know he's been interested, but I don't know if it's something you guys want to incorporate, because I know you like when people book the appointments, you like to get on the phone with them, talk to them and all that stuff. And you can still do that with this if you organize right. But I use, like with our Christmas minis and even now with our Santa pictures we're doing, we use an online booking system. I don't do it for my normal studio because I'm not here 24/7 and I don't know what days I'm here at what hours. But I use a thing called Calendly right now, and I'm actually looking at Square because now Square does have a calendar on there that's free apparently that you can incorporate with your Square business, where I put a link up there. The clients click on the link, it goes to an information page and a calendar, and they click on the dates I have available there for that, say, fairy portraits. They would click on it, and then it would have all the timings there, and they just click on the time they want, confirm it, and then they fill out all their information. It automatically is set up with my Google Calendar, where it actually takes the thing, it sends me an email of the actual booking, plus it puts it right on my Google Calendar for me. And then
So,
I have their information with their phone number and email. I can contact them if I want to and just say, oh, thank you for doing, because I got to get payment from them up front too.
okay.
So I wonder if you
Interesting.
were looking at incorporating something like that into your stuff to help take some load off.
So I find, particularly with the fairy portraits, people often have questions
Mhm.
before they want to book. So, and my other hesitation, although I could certainly ask more questions and find out more information about it, is I don't want people to see my calendar.
Mhm.
So, for example, when we first put up an ad for a fairy day in a city, I get emails right away. Oh, are there still spots? Are there still spots?
Yeah.
So I want it to be like a scarcity thing. So if they
Yep.
can see I don't have any bookings yet,
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the good thing about, I
then
know with Square, I found out, is you can actually set it to hide, I think 20% at a time or 40% at a time. So it looks
okay,
like you're booked, but really what it is you can have 20 spots that day, but it'll hide maybe 4 of those spots, or it'll hide 8 of them to make it look like you've got
okay,
bookings. And then people start
interesting.
filling it up, and then you can take that off and put it on to all the rest of them are open again. You
Okay.
can do that.
Yeah,
I know, I just found that out. I just found that part out.
okay. The other thing I do when I book, and again, we're talking about the fairy
Yeah.
sessions, not regular sessions again, is I try, just for our own sanity too, is I
Yeah.
try not to book, if I can, back-to-back sessions with multiple children in them.
Makes
So I
sense.
try and go, okay, this one's got 2, I'm going to try and book a 1 after it,
Mhm.
and then another multiple, and then another 1. So because it takes a little bit longer, and
True.
so I know I'll get caught back up in a session with a 1.
Wow.
It makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true, eh? And that's something you became aware of after doing these for years and years. You thought, oh, well, let's do something about that.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Tina's
well,
up.
when we used to do them, we used to only get 1,
Yeah.
singles, and then we started getting siblings, and then now people are like, "Oh, let's do all the grandkids for grandma," and it's just like, "Oh, okay," like this complicates the day because it slows it down,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
so I
Still doable, though. I mean, we
Oh,
get
yeah, it
through them
is,
all.
but that helps trying to
Yeah,
Definitely.
slot
I hear
those
you.
singles in between, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
we have stretched out the times. We used to do every 20 minutes all day. And
Mhm.
then during COVID, we stretched it to 30 so we could steam the costumes and wipe the stuff
Yeah.
down with Lysol wipes.
Definitely.
And then after 30, we're like, we're never going back to every 20 minutes.
No,
That was
exactly.
crazy.
Now, I tell my clients it's 20-minute sessions, but like you, I book them half an hour between each other. So it gives you that 10-minute buffer zone to not just
Yeah.
steam things, but also if you're getting behind, that extra 10 minutes helps get you back on track again.
Yeah, and we've stretched it out too. Like as
Mhm.
before, we would do it all in one day. Now we do it over 2 days, right? So
Yeah.
I think Rob just thought it was not one day hanging out at my studio wasn't enough. He wanted to hang out with me a little
yeah,
longer.
there you go.
That's how I took it.
I'm a homebody, truth be told, even though I have a real adventurous hippie side to me that wants to hit the open road. My ultimate vacation would be to get on a motorcycle and go away for 2 months.
Mhm.
But when I'm working, I just don't like being out of town. I like to get
Yeah.
back home right away. So
So how do you find differences running a studio now as compared to 10 years ago or even 25 years ago in like the 90s and that? Because with digital and all that, like how do you find the difference running the studio?
It is different. And I'm sure, like most studios that have been around for a long time, we've gone through different progressions. So my role has changed. So when we first started working together, when we first got married, it was just Rob and I. And we built up the studio to the point where we became busier, and then we had to take on staff. So when we took on staff, then I was able to delegate some of the things, right? And be more of just a manager
Yeah.
and dealing with the clients as opposed to doing a lot of different functions, so we did that for years and years. And then when we sold the big house with the studio behind and decided we were going to spend our winters away, we also decided we're going to just go back down to just the two of us. We'll do less, but we're not paying staff. So in the time when we had staff, we had somebody coming in to clean. We had somebody who came in once a week to do bookkeeping. We had our staff that worked on doing all the retouching and all the orders, and sometimes another half person doing that as well. So at that time, I was still doing all the dealing with the clients. And I know some people who have bigger studios would have someone perhaps doing sales separately. But I have always done all the client interactions, the emails, the phone calls with the clients, the sales appointments. And I would be in charge when we had staff of tracking the orders as they were coming in. So I had a book and I would write down the date whose order was in so that I could go back and look and see, okay, why isn't this order done yet, right? So kind of tracking what my staff is doing as far as working on the orders. And I was also always hung on to quality control. So once the images were all worked on, I would sit down at the computer and I would look through every image before she started sending them out to the lab. And when the boxes came in from the lab, I would open them and sort them, and because I want to see the prints. I want to know that they're up to snuff and if they need to be redone. So that's other stuff got delegated.
Yeah.
And now we're back to I'm doing the bookkeeping. We clean the studio ourselves.
Yeah.
Rob does all the retouching. I still do the second look at all the images before they go out to the lab. And I just, over the years, just from working in the studio, I've kind of learned a little bit of Photoshop, so I can do, if I see stuff that I want to change on an image, I know how to do it myself, and I don't have to go back to Rob unless it's something I can't manage. I'll do the tweaking. And I know what women are like. I sat there with them at the sales session. I'll zoom in and I'll find stuff that I know they're going to pick about that a woman would look for, that maybe, just knowing what women are like. Like I'll go in on the dark clothing and find little pieces of lint and stuff like that. And sometimes I'll do just a little bit more retouching on the women. And stuff that I know they're going to look at that stuff. Even though it might not be obvious when the whole image is zoomed out, but you get it in and you're like, oh, she's going to see that. And
sometimes even the clients wouldn't even notice it, but we notice it as the photographers and the retouchers. It's like, oh, why didn't I do that? Even though the layman person probably wouldn't even notice it.
Yeah.
But I'm the same way.
And I crop them and put the signature on them and send them out to the lab. And again, still sort them when they come back. And so, yeah, it's changed.
I can imagine.
We evolve.
Well, I guess back then, you guys, Rob, you'd print like little 4x6 proofs or something to show them in person to do sales sessions, or how did you run it back in the film days?
That's way back there, John. That's way back.
Or did you let them take it home? Because I know when I used to do weddings back in the film days, I had an album where I'd put the 4x6 or whatever proofs in there, and I'd have it was in those little pages, but I'd have like a little sticker around the opening of those pages. And I would tell them that, you got like a week or something to take them home. But if any of those seals are broken, then I know that they've taken them out and scanned them or something. I told them that if that's out, you've paid for at least an 8x10 or something like that, because, they're stealing your image. That's how we used to do it. I don't know how you guys used to run it, but
Yeah, back in the day.
back in the
Yeah,
day.
we went to print proofs. Then we went to in 2000 we went digital, so we were doing a projector on a large screen.
Yep.
And of course, those are just the changes that are reflected by the technology, and that sort of segues to the next question I had for Tina, and it sort of applies with what we were talking about in a sense. There's a huge, huge trend with a lot of photographers. I'm going to qualify them as shoot and burners. If you're a full-time photographer and you've got a studio and you've got lots and lots of stuff going on and you're just shooting and burning, I'm saying you're in the category still, and it's not a good idea. You're probably going to burn out eventually because you're doing minimal sales for maximum work and minimal profits. And that is online galleries. To me, the online gallery is a death knell to sales. Absolutely 100% guaranteed. So Tina, why not go to why the big, and I find it weird, before I let you speak, I just want to mention this one thing. Saw this a couple of years ago. There's groups on Facebook and it's dedicated to in-person sales. To them, it's just like, whoa, we're doing in-person sales. To me, it's like, well, yeah, that's what we've always done. There's never been a change in that area. But a lot of people just immediately went to galleries. Now, I question not only the validity and whether or not it makes any sense, but also there's a lot of resistance, and I'm thinking fears or possibly apathy towards having to go the extra mile when you do in-person sales. You have to make, when you're dealing with people one-on-one, you're effectively now selling yourself, and people sometimes will push back, and that creates, we can't say no, we can't be assertive, and you need to be assertive and all those things. So let's open up that can of worms, Tina. Online galleries versus in-person sales.
I think it's the same thing, right? There's no rapport with the client. We stopped doing them. We did do them for a while. And especially, if there's people coming in from out of town, and it's just like, we're just finding we put up the gallery and people, there's no urgency. Even if you tell them the gallery is only going to be up for a certain amount of time, they just let it expire, and then they come back to you months later. Oh, can you put that gallery up again? And again, they don't order. And again, I'm generalizing. It's not everybody. We do have a select 3 or 4 clients that we give them online galleries because they're long time, good clients, and we know they're going to order. It's never been an issue. And so what we offer them now is you can come into the studio and sit down at the screen here and do your order, or I'll do it by Zoom with you if they really can't because they're from out of town or it's just too difficult for them to come in.
No more.
And sometimes I'll have people who come in for an in-person sale, and then they'll do their order and they'll leave and they'll contact me after and just say, I want to have a look through again. Can we just do a Zoom meeting? And I'll say, yep, sure. And I'll set them up and we'll do a Zoom meeting to do a second order, or if they want the mom or something to come over and go through them. So it's in person. And we do get pushback, there's some people who are like, well, why don't you do an online gallery like the other photographers do? And I'm like, we don't do that. It's in person. If you can sit down, I don't say this to the client, but I'm thinking to myself, you can sit down at your computer and go through the online gallery. Why can't you sit down at your computer with me? I can make it so much faster. And I tell them, I have a program and I have a system. I can show you the images side by side instead of you flipping back and forth through them. And we can make a decision within 30 minutes, right? So
Agreed. I know some photographers that actually will put not only the limit on their gallery, and when it goes off, if somebody says, oh, can you put that back up? They actually charge them a fee to put it back up.
Yeah. I want to just clarify something. Tina said we used to do online galleries. We never did them as a general rule. We had occasional clients where they were out of town and she would do them. Every time we've done them, it's been nothing but a big bucket of poison. It's never worked out. and it just sort of like ruins everything. So we went from never doing an online gallery to what Tina just mentioned, which is, hey, let's do a Zoom meeting.
Exactly.
And
It's
you're
so
pretty hard.
personable.
You're pretty hard and dedicated to that concept, aren't you, Tina?
I am, yeah. I
I
mean,
do the same thing.
they came in for the session. Get your prints. Like, isn't that what you came in for?
Yeah, exactly.
We're fighting human nature, and people tend to be who they are by nature. So we have to manage that.
Hmm.
I want to show you guys something. It kind of.
I think the only online galleries I do now is the corporate stuff. Like if you're doing headshots for a business, they
Yeah,
don't have time to come in
We
here.
do
and
it
do
for
We do
headshots
that.
too.
Yeah.
Okay, can you see that?
Yep.
Tina said she's been doing Photoshop, and she's a little bit modest. She also does all our album designs.
Yep. That's a Pembroke picture right there.
It is.
Yeah.
I recognize it.
I know the mother very well.
So this is her designs, and this album. We've been selling a substantial amount of albums, and Tina got quite good at. She's got a flair. She's very creative. Tina is also a bit of a jewelry crafts person, and she does some amazing jewelry
Mhm.
pieces, jewelry and design, and anything that's got to do with this kind of stuff. I got to admit, she does a pretty good job. And when you do an album, Tina, it doesn't really take you a whole lot of time, does it?
Well, I have templates set up with
Mhm.
backgrounds for different, for a fairy album or a nice fairy album or a medieval album. So I save them as PDFs so I can go look at what I've done and use the same background and just move things around.
You see the screen?
Yep. The whiteboard. Yep.
This is from way back. I don't even think we do this anymore. We use Google Calendar, but even back then we used to use, if not Google Calendar, we had something similar.
Yeah, it was like on the Palm Pilot or something like that.
That's right. I forgot about that. But this is a really, really powerful strategy. And that is that every day you write out on your board what's going to happen the next day. And this was a quiet day. Remember that we used to do like 5 to 7 sessions a day every day. It was crazy. And Tina would write these out. 9 o'clock, we got to bring the car to the Nitsan dealership. We got a newborn at 10. Somebody's coming in to order. I don't know why there's an arrow pointing to 2:30. Maybe they changed. And orders, and of the family, and then 2 children, blah, blah, blah. So, and personal stuff like Danielle's got piano at 5:30 and whatnot. I don't know what Rob meeting is, but
Just let you organize your day.
yeah, in advance. So we don't do this so much other than we do this on Google Calendar.
That's what I do.
Yeah. You just look at the Google Calendar now.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if I were busy, I'd still want to do this, because if you're looking at it all day long, you get a preview and you get to visualize what's going to go on the next day. I think it's a pretty powerful strategy.
Yep.
Bookkeeping. What's this, Tina?
Oh, that's the orders list where I track the orders coming in, when they came in, and if they're scratched off, it means they're done. They're ready to go.
Okay. What's the yellow ink, purple ink, and pink ink? Is that just random, or
Just whatever pen she had that day.
is that what that
No,
means?
it's got to mean something. 21. Jeez. It could be when it went out to the lab. That might be what it is.
Okay.
That's probably what it is. So the dates on the side are when they came in, and the other dates are probably when they went out to the lab. That was back when we were FTPing orders to the lab.
Yeah. We're kind of still FTPing, but using the lab software.
Yeah.
Here's looks,
That's
Post-its.
similar to what I do now, but I showed Rob, like in my office, we have that shelf and I have them labeled. One is proof workflow. One is V&O ready, meaning viewing and ordering ready. One is print workflow. And then one's sent to lab, back from lab, and ready for client. And I have them on shelves. Same idea as that book thing right there.
And that would, that was like when we were really, really busy and had staff. So,
Mm-hmm.
if clients call and want to know where their order's at, so you need to be organized so you could give them a definite answer.
See, I've
So if
stolen
I
a lot of
know,
stuff from Tina because a lot of my stuff might be a little different, but it's the same idea. I just taken ideas that you guys had and tried to incorporate it away in my studio. So Tina's one of the smart ones. I take what I can from her.
These are orders in progress, partially completed orders. Okay, obviously.
so sometimes those will have a print maybe that I wanted to redo, or sometimes just only part of the shipment came in
Mhm.
of what, if things are going to different places. So yeah, well, again, this is because we had lots and lots of volume going on. So the invoice would get filed alphabetically, and those letters on the top right, B2 and A3. So these people obviously have a wall portrait. That's one box, and a box of prints. So those are the two different bins that their order is in.
Okay. And not Hark. Brian Coleman was wondering. It says, "Are the albums event style?" I don't know what he means by
Yes.
that.
Yeah, we do the event albums from Album of Polka.
Oh, okay. Oh, I see what you mean. Okay.
Yeah.
Hark says, "Merry Christmas, you guys."
Merry Christmas to you too.
Merry Christmas, Hark, and Merry Christmas.
I think it was
to,
Hark that got
Brian.
you guys on the idea of trying to do Zoom with your fairy portraits, was it not?
It could be. Yeah.
Well, I had the idea, and yes, Hark does 100% Zoom, and he gets pretty good sales. So I was like, okay, it's working. It's working for him. Let's run it by Tina. Tina's the ultimate authority.
Well, I mean, we tried it, and I still do offer it on the fairy sales if people can't make it happen in person, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I do it for our family stuff again, if it's easier for the people, but I certainly try and get them to come in person first.
True.
John, you got another question on your list?
Sure. One big one, I guess, that probably a lot of people, because I'm like you guys. I'm a husband-wife team that here. We all have different responsibilities. So what do you find is your biggest challenge managing the studio with your spouse? Because I'm sure there are things you guys hit heads about, I'm sure, where you want to go one way and he wants to go the other way. And so what do you find the biggest challenges and how you guys make it work, I guess you can say? Because I'm sure there's a lot out there that are same as us.
Yeah, I'd say they've become a lot less over the years as we've defined our roles better. Some of the things I try and poke into that's, I guess, Rob's jurisdiction, but is backgrounds. But I have a lot to say about that too, and I certainly voice my opinion. So when he's trying to change fairy backdrops or
Right.
stuff like that, or sometimes even with the family portraits, I have some input, and sometimes we just discuss these things and come to a resolution. Sometimes he doesn't agree with me and does what he wants anyways.
Because it's got to be different than a person who's hired by a photographer to come and run their studio and run it, and they have this is your job, this is your what's the word I'm looking for, but anyways, this is how we want you to do in your responsibilities. But when you're a husband and wife team, there's a lot more looseness, I guess you can say, where
yeah,
the lines
because
get
we're both
intertwined more.
It's our livelihood for both of us, right?
Mhm.
So you want to make sure the decisions are the right ones. And I mean, Rob and I are very different, as many husband and wives are very different. So
Polar
sometimes
opposites.
so we do have different opinions about some things, and which generally we manage to resolve, but
Can I make a
Tina's
comment?
side? Go
Sure.
for it.
Okay. Often when we lock horns about something, so let's say, for example, I want to go Zoom meetings, and that's what I really wanted to do. And we tried it. Tina tried it, but since that's her domain, she said, "No, I didn't. I'm not going to argue. I'm not going to push it." So you gotta kind of choose your battles.
Sure.
Likewise, when it comes to something more artistic, And in my domain, Tina will sometimes not agree with what I'm doing, but too bad. I'm going to do it anyways. And well, you got to pick your battles, and
True.
she's got to pick her battles. But it works regardless. And middle of the road stuff, we come to terms on, and we just come up with a solution. And I think I like the fact that there's a lot of trust, because I'm not doing anything crazy. She's not doing anything crazy. If you're doing crazy stuff, then it's going to be an issue. You're going to create chaos, and things are going to eventually go out of control. I always want to push and have a good product and a good experience. That's number one. So, I spent a substantial amount of money on those new fairy houses that I bought last spring, because to me, it's important that I really have a very good experience for the children. Tina didn't want me to spend that much money. I forget, it was like $400. And, but whatever, I said, I'm doing it because I really, really want to deliver that experience with the children. For some reason or other, I'm more, I don't know. Tina's pretty good with kids, but I think I don't know. What
You're
is that,
better,
Tina?
definitely.
I'm better with kids. I feel a stronger affinity. I really enjoy having them in the studio, and I get really excited. I become a bit of a kid myself.
Yeah, you're just a big kid.
Yeah. But I'm reading a book right now. It's really, really good. It's all about the biography of Walt Disney. It's a massive tome. It's almost 900 pages. And wow. And now I'm thinking, he was like a big kid. And it was his brother, Roy, who was the guy who was the money person. And he wouldn't have gotten far in life without Roy. There's no way. He was just a loose cannon, but his primary driving force, he was a pioneer in animation, and not one of the pioneers as an original. He got in on the early days. However, he was a pioneer in that he really took it to a whole new level. And and because he just, I don't know, he likes to entertain. Mostly a lot of his stuff is geared towards children. So let's call that the Disney experience. So, and that's important to me. Maybe Tina, not so much. Maybe she can leave it or embrace it. I don't know. But to me, it's just like a really top priority. So you figure things out. And I think if you're on the same page, if you have the same basic foundational philosophy, we want to deliver a good product and we want to make money. We want to deliver a good product and we want to make money.
So I can make one point too in that regard, not exactly, but something I think is worth mentioning is the finished product. When it comes time to deliver the finished product, as far as quality control goes, when I'm looking at those prints and trying to decide whether they're good enough to give to the client, or if there's something I want to fix on them, I always ask myself, when I show this to the client, am I going to have any hesitation showing this to the client? And is there anything on this image that is going to suggest to the client that it is not worth what they're paying for it?
Right.
That's very
So
true.
if there's anything like that, then it needs to be fixed and be redone, because once you put that doubt in their mind, then they start getting picky about it.
And if it's doubt in your mind, they're going to see it also. But going on with you guys, how do you manage that work life, home life balance, especially like say when Danielle was born, now all of a sudden you got a baby now. I guess some of your responsibilities got thrown onto Rob because you got to be home, look at the baby after the baby, or like, how did that work out? Like, I'm sure a lot of them, that happens to a lot of people. They all of a sudden there's a juggernaut in their home life and now you got to scramble.
Yeah. Well, that's when we started getting staff too.
Oh, okay.
So that certainly helped alleviate some of the things. And I did have an office staff for a while as well, Sandra, remember? And she was taking on some of that for me when Danielle was younger. So yeah, it was challenging because Danielle was born right after we started working together, and we were still trying to work out the dynamics of working together and running the studio together and managing having a baby. But she went to my mom's within a couple months to get taken care of during the day because she was born at the end of August, and by the end of October, you know, it was getting into Christmas season and stuff, and I just couldn't stay home. There was just the two of us at that time. So,
Yeah,
you know,
we were downtown then, right?
yeah, on Elgin Street. So we were still figuring it out as we went. So it took us, you know, I mean, we've been working together for 28 years now. So it's been an evolution.
Yeah,
I can imagine.
it's
See, our kids were grown up by most of the. I guess no, we had Peyton. I guess while we were still running the studio together. So
you make it work.
I do.
I just think back to those days, and it's just like, wow, I don't remember there being a struggle. It just we
No.
did it. We just did what we had to do.
Yeah. And sometimes she was at the studio with us, right? So
Exactly. I've
yeah.
done that too. I had dance studio I had to shoot for. We were shooting at the dance studio. Colleen was in the hospital at the time because she had just had a stroke. And I got this newborn baby. I actually had her in the car seat there with me, and some of the parents were watching Peyton while I was doing photos for me. So I noticed, like, you do what you got to do.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy, you know, when you think back about it all. You know, I think, and John, you might relate to this as well. Tina and I got married, and I never really had any sort of. I always knew I was 36 when we got married and had Danielle. I always kind of knew that, you know, I wanted to do that, and I was just waiting for the right person, and then she showed up. My hindsight is 2020 now, as I make the connection, because on our first date, I asked her if she wanted to go out for nachos. It was kind of a early July. After supper, we were playing squash at the YMCA, and then I said, "You want to go for nachos?" It's kind of a light date, nothing really formal. And then I asked her if I could pick her up on a motorcycle, and her eyes lit up. So that meant a lot to me. Here's somebody who's willing to get onto the motorcycle with me eagerly, like zero resistance. And that was our first date, and that's the first night we kissed, if you remember, Tina.
Yes.
But I look back and I go, yeah, she even though she's an accountant, she's very well dressed, and she looks very professional, comes across as very professional. And she has, you know, she has standards. You know, she shows up looking good. She has a nice car, career. You know, you don't just show up as a slob. But she was willing to get on the motorcycle, and then eventually we got married. And then she was willing and eagerly wanted to quit her job as an accountant, gave up a career. So then we're in this situation with a baby, and I had the studio already when I met her, so it was kind of going. It had some momentum. So that's important versus, say, if we were starting from scratch.
True.
But we just kind of committed and made it work.
Yeah.
We just committed, made it work. And there was never any squabbling or fears. I say that because sometimes, you know, we had to move to a bigger studio. We didn't actually have to. We could have stayed there, but we decided to. And we had an opportunity to move into a mall. Our expenses were going to be, and they did increase exponentially.
Yeah.
But I don't remember Tina ever saying, "Oh, I don't know that, you know, we're going to have a lease. We got to sign." There was a 3.5 year. It was a sublease, and they were people that were offering it to us had to get out for whatever reason, and they just said, you know, it's available if you want it. Tina, I don't remember you being at all resistant, or we just, yeah, we're in, and boom. It was while we were there, we renewed to a 5-year lease. So we were there well over 8 years in the commercial mall. Those were some of the best years of our life. And it was close to our house too.
Those were our busiest times when we were in that mall.
I can relate, because out of my house, I was doing okay. But as soon as we moved into this little commercial space in this little strip plaza here, right on the main street there between the three towns there, my business just skyrocketed.
And I think it also has to reflect the kind of markets you're going after, you know, because what you do, John, and what we do is conducive to having a sort of a storefront operation versus, say, somebody who, like John. John, we were supposed to have John on today, and that's why he couldn't come in. He's off to see a hockey game. John Rumball, he's doing mostly sports. He doesn't really need a storefront.
No, and he does some headshots, but he could do that anywhere.
Yeah, well, he has a
So
little studio in his house, but you don't need a storefront.
No, to do sports stuff. No. Agreed.
So I see Brian's asking if I use studio management software or my own system. And I just use my own system. It's just ever since I started running the studio with Rob, I just kind of eventually developed my own system and never really felt the need. I know we've had studio management software pitched to us a few different times, and I'm like, it doesn't make any practical sense to me because what I do works for me.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
again, maybe if we had multiple staff, it might make more sense.
Mhm.
But even when we had like 3-4 staff, I found my own system just worked for me. And I didn't, why fix it if it's not broken, right?
Exactly.
And
Same as like
you
I
know,
use Studio Cloud here, but it's mostly it's more of our database, basically just keeping our clients and stuff and billing and invoicing. But it's such a powerful software. There's so much more we could do with it if we wanted to, with marketing and networking and all calendars and that if you want to pay more. But it gets overwhelming. Like we have a system that we do already, and we just use that for our database and invoicing, basically. So.
mhm.
But do you use anything like? Do you just use QuickBooks for your stuff like that, or
I
like something
use
like
Simply
as simple as that?
Accounting because I know Simply Accounting, a lot of people find it a little onerous, but I am an accountant by trade, so that's why I've always been with Simply Accounting and never made the switch to QuickBooks. And so
Hark's saying that when it comes to print, he likes to see every print when it comes to for that whole control of the quality, and that's why he says that's why he doesn't drop ship to clients directly. I think the only time you drop ship is when like stuff like here for the fairy portraits, you have it sent here. And then they drop to clients.
so sometimes we do have to drop ship, right? So right now we're still doing some sessions and doing orders, and because we're going to be away, I'm drop shipping to those clients so that they can get their orders. And so I'm doing, I'm using ACDC for doing my sales sessions. Had to think about that for a minute. Is it ACDC? Hang on.
Yeah, that sounds right. Yeah,
Minimize
ACDC.
this. Yeah,
There was that
AC/DC.
software, ACDC. Yeah,
Yeah,
What's the big
It's-
sales software program out of Australia?
that's the one he was saying there. Oh no, Bridge Fund. No, you're talking about ProSelect.
Yeah,
That's what James
which
used
we
to use
had
all
for
the
a
time, yeah.
while, but so let's add ProSelect on there, Tina.
We used to, yeah. But now I'm using ACDC, and I know that program can do a lot of other things. But I mean, I pay $60 for it, and I just use it for a viewing program for clients. So I have it on my laptop in case I'm doing Zoom meetings, and I have it on the computer at the studio in case I'm doing it there. And so what I do is when we first sit down, I explain to them how these are just proofs and all. And then I tell them first time through, I'm just going to do a flip through. So you get a sense of what's there. So they kind of know what's coming up as we're going through them. And then we go back to the beginning. And I'm like, first instinct, yes, keep it to consider it, or no, it's out. And we go through them all like that. And I tag the ones they say yes to, and I get rid of all the no's. And then I go back through and I tell them, now we're going to stack up the similar poses side by side. So I'll put 3 abreast. So these 3 are the same pose. Which one do you like the best? So, and then if there's more, I'll say, okay, here's the one on the left you just kept. Here's the next 2 of the same pose till we get down to 1 of every pose as their best. And they're like, wow, this is a really good system. I didn't think we could do this quick.
Yeah.
Tina figured that one out, and she, I'm hands off.
Yeah.
She's got it down. And,
I use Lightroom now because it does basically the same thing. And I already have Lightroom, so I don't have to get on the program. But I can star ones that they like. I can rate them if I want. I can compare 1 to 5 at a time on the screen, crop them, whatever I need to do, and show them what it looks like. So it's basically the same thing ACDC does.
Yeah. Sometimes I think ACDC can do the rating system too. And sometimes people say, can this be a maybe? And I'm like, nope, it's a yes or a no.
Exactly.
Because we're going back through again. So if you
Yep.
think maybe, then it's a yes.
Exactly.
And
All
if
right.
you want to eliminate it the next time, then
Tina takes the bull by the horn. She's no nonsense. So
That's good.
well, I want to, especially when we're out of town doing these ferry things, and I've got them booked 30 minutes apart. There's no hemming and hawing here. It's
Yep.
just we're gonna just keep
get her
moving
done.
forward.
Well,
Yeah.
it works. You know, it really works. You got a
Yep.
system down, and it works. Nobody's, you know. I want to mention one thing, but I also want to mention that why don't we use Lightroom, Tina? Because we have Lightroom as well.
I don't know.
Like you
I
said,
don't
if it
have the
works, it
answer.
works, right? So
Okay, so let me just. We're coming up to an hour, so I just want to bring up one more thing. I just remembered actually. So then it kind of ties in with what we're saying. Our clients are happy. They pay us. We have very little resistance. When something happens, we have to redo it. We redo it. You know, if we screw up, we screw up. I admit right away, screwed up. Let's get her done. Do what we need to do. But one thing we do, and we started this year, and why the hell I didn't think of this earlier. Everybody that comes in, we don't sell digital files. It's just our rule, except for commercial and headshots. We're thinking of having some digital file packages, but we'll let you all know if and when. However, we do give them the social media files of any print they order. So when they come and pick up and their order's paid for, Tina always sends them an email with a link to their social media files. And we added a whole section to that email. And that section says, would you mind giving us a review on Google? And is it okay if we use your images to promote? Do we have permission to use it to promote on our blog and on Facebook, social media? And not everybody says yes. Not everybody gives a review, but we've been getting a whole ton of them.
that's
So
awesome.
I have a massive, I put them all on my Dropbox account, images to be posted that I have permission. I never used to worry about that, but I'm kind of like, yeah, I'm going to start worrying about that from now on. And I have so much content now. I've got hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of files with permission and I post every day. As y'all know, I do 3 posts a day, Monday to Friday, across all social media. And that would be Facebook, personal, Facebook, studio page, Instagram, LinkedIn, personal, LinkedIn, studio. So I think those are the main ones. And that's where I post my images. And to me, it's really, really important to constantly be out there promoting the studio that way. And I feel confident now because we've asked. And we got a ton. Of reviews, which helps with your Google ranking, by the way. So
I'm going to incorporate that in mine because we do give them the social media files also when anything they order, but we just send them an email. Here's your social media files because they're small enough to fit in an email. But I like that idea of adding, would you please be willing to do a review and all that stuff? I'm going to try that.
We'll send you our copy if you want it. So we got one more question.
That one?
Then we'll call it a wrap because I got somebody coming in about 10 minutes.
That's Hark. It says, Rob, Tina, how often, if any, do you get any client ever comes back to you to reprint or get more prints after the original order?
Once in a while. It's not that frequent. But there is, I've got one right now. Actually, I just heard the shipment come in with FedEx. Someone just picked up a family order and she wanted to order more. It's an extended family order. So, and sometimes once in a while, I'll get one of the ferry orders, usually after a year or so. That doesn't usually happen unless something's happened to somebody, right?
Yeah.
But,
well, people grow so fast too, like kids. And I find after about a year, they're not going to come back for reprints. Usually they're just going to come back and get a reshoot because people have changed and grown up. And...
So once in a while, it's not that frequent. So.
No. All right, we're done.
I think there's a lot of good information in there.
Yeah, this was amazing, Tina. Thank you.
You're welcome.
This was amazing. And it's almost good to hear all this stuff again. It kind of reinvigorates and retunes my mindset towards what we do. We run a studio together, and I think it's an amazing business, and it's an amazing scenario, and it's an amazing life, and whatever you want, I will bring to you, whether it's jewels, clothes, restaurants, or travel, new car.
Anything, okay.
And well, you know, I bought a drone last week, John. And
I know.
I
That
just
never
showed
made
up.
it into a meeting.
No, sometimes
That
you got
was
to
a
bake.
That
surprise.
happens
got-
to me.
That's your fault. That's all your fault, John, by the way.
Yeah, I know.
John got a drone. I want a drone too. So I just showed up with the printed invoice and I put it on the counter. We were about to have supper. I said, I bought a drone. And I just turned around and walked away.
I just say I bought it in a way it's non-refundable. I can't send it back.
And
Even though
she
that's
started to
not
buck a little bit. And I said, it's going to pay for itself in a year. So
Yeah, exactly.
it's all good.
It will.
Sometimes you got to beg for forgiveness instead of ask for permission. But you know, when we went digital in 2000, there was a photographer in town who had bought a Canon D30, the 3.2 megapixel camera, and he was getting some nice prints. And I remember I said, his name was Roger. I said, Roger, when you get that 30-inch print back from the lab, Custom Color did laser prints. I said, I want to see the quality. If it does 30-inch prints, I'm going digital. So I went over, and then I called Tina. I looked at his 30-inch print, stunning. Called Tina, and I said to Tina, Tina, I need $25,000. We're going digital. No resistance.
Yeah.
Total faith. She didn't even question it. Within a month, we flipped over to digital, and the rest is history. So
Yeah. I was one of the late ones. It wasn't until about 2005 that I changed over.
and that was the bulk of photographers
Mhm.
around 05, 06, a lot of resistance. And then they got stuck with their Hasselblads and their Mamiyas, and they're still stuck with their Hasselblads and
Yeah.
Mamiyas.
Their $6,000 camera systems are now worth maybe $100 or $200.
Yeah. So thanks, Hark. Merry Christmas to you too. We'll talk to you. We're going to get Hark back on here someday soon. And yeah, we're old timers, been around the block. I'm 64 years old now, and I keep thinking, you know, should I? No. Retirement horrifies me, and I keep thinking of Mick Jagger, man. He's 80, right? He's still going.
Yeah,
Still on tour.
I'm 50 years young, so
No, you're just a baby. Well, you do need more hair, though.
I can grow it back. Not up here. I'd look like George Costanza if I did.
Yeah, why retire when you love what you're doing, what you do?
Exactly.
This is a key point, and thanks, Hark, for that. So, all right, I'm off. Tina, we'll see you at the studio later. Tina's coming over. We have a family coming in at 4, and I have somebody coming in at 1:30, so I got to go.
I keep telling Colleen sometime in the new year when you guys are not down south, we're gonna make a trip down maybe for a week or a weekend. Come down there and we'll get a hotel room and we'll come and hang with you guys for a weekend or something.
Well, come down in February.
So you'll be gone.
Exactly.
We'll just go and hang out with Danielle and we'll just live at your house.
We'll give you the keys to the house here. We'll babysit Danielle.
Yeah. Although she'll probably be down south with you.
No, she's got work to do. And
All right.
All right. Thanks, John. Thank you very
right.
much, Tina. Thanks,
Bye.
everybody.
Till next week. See you
We'll talk
later.
later.
Bye.